Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thanks, and nice to see you again. For those of you who've been following me, you know I'm in the middle of a major project. It's supposed to last about 15 years. I'm taking all the research I've done over the last 20 years, and I'm organizing it into these YouTube videos. And I'm uploading them into my YouTube channel, VLB USA. My goal is to upload until about the age of 80, which makes it 2037. We'll see how that works out. So, don't forget, subscribe, like, share, ring the bell so you get notifications. It's free, it supports the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. And most importantly, remember, in the United States of America, 96% of retirees, people retiring, we're talking about age 65 to 70, have less than $500,000 in their 401k accounts. This is a travesty, and it doesn't have to be happening. So please help me get the word out so that people can try and get to a reasonable goal. And as you'll see in this video, that's more closer to $1.5 to $2 million than it is $555,000. So the real odds of the S&P 500. How long will your 401k last? That's this video. What do we need to do to make it last 20 to 30 years? And we need to set up a plan B. So setting up your plan B is part of this. Now, everybody knows I built this gigantic spreadsheet where I have all the S&P calculations and data in there and all these questions I asked the data. And that's what's producing my videos. Now, one page there has 1928 to 2022 down the left side, and it has the annual returns. So basically January to January annual returns for each of those 94 years. Go on across the top, the same 128 to 2022 is 94.5 years, and that way I can restart a calculation and run it through these numbers every single year for 94 years. Follow me? And see what the odds of the S&P 500 and how it performed, and so you can see realistically what you can expect from the real numbers of the S&P 500. For example, this right here is 1960 to 1969. That's one decade. And if you look at the year, it starts here, 1960. Well, over here at 1960, it goes through 2022. That's 1960 to 2022. So I can actually do calculations from 1960 to 1969 and these are all decades here, the color changes here. So over this one decade, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 decades of data to use to see how long this account would last. In this case, we're doing withdrawals. And you see here, it stops. There's no stopping here because it just kept going. The returns were really good. But here, you can see in this decade, a lot of them ran out early on into the decade. Down here, you can see 2010 to 2019, and a lot less data to use. We're only talking about just over a decade, maybe 12 years there, if you start at the beginning of the decades. So we're going to zoom in close here so you can kind of see what this is looking like. And just remember, it calculates out down. So I can put in whatever I'm using. This here is $1.5 million. So it starts here, 1.5 million in 1928, and it goes down. See this 1.5? It keeps going all the way down to 2022. 4% withdrawal, $60,000 a year. 1928 all the way down to 2020, 1.5, 1 year difference, 1 year difference. It calculates it down. And it's going to use these numbers here as the returns. So you have 1929, you have $1.5 million here. There's 1.5 here, 1.5, 1.5, just so it's every single year. Then it's going to look over here to these numbers. This is the Great Depression, and it's going to start adding and subtracting these returns and losses. And that's going to knock this balance down. Also, it's going to take out the $60,000 a year. In this case, 4% inflation that's starting down here in 1935, and that's about once every 5 years. Okay, so we're gonna have the market change, then our withdrawal, and then our balance. So that being said, 1.5 million starts out in 1928. The first year, 1929, which is the end of 1928, started in 1929, was 11% loss. So we have 11% loss of 1.5. That's $178,650 loss. We take that out for the 1.5, that leaves us 1.32 million. Okay. Then we have to take out the 2% we're spending. with or without the inflation in there. And to take 60% out, that leaves 1.26350, and that's why you have that here. So we go from 1.5 to 1.2, and it runs out in 1940. We're at minus 34. So if you started with $1.5 million in 1929, by 1940 it was gone. If you started out in 1928, by 1943 it was gone. If you started out in 1930, by 1940, it was gone. See that? So they ran out here. And that's what it does. It does it for 94 years. So you can look at all those chances that you had, because you don't know where you're going to fall in here. Okay. Also, you got to remember we got the black swans, and we've marked the black swans here. Now, let's look at the black swans real quick. I have the maximum return in any one year was 45. And that was down here in 1954. So the highest return on the S&P 500 in any one year was 45%. The lowest or biggest loss was minus 7% in 1931 during the Great Depression. Okay. Now, how did I define my black swans so you can see them? These are all the black swans in the S&P 500 based on annual returns. So I said, okay, what would I call a black swan? The worst year was 47, so that's definitely a black swan. 47. But what about a 10% loss? I don't see a 10% loss as calling that a black swan. Now, this is very subjective. You can call a black swan whatever you want to call it, all right? For my data in here, being the window is from 45 to minus 47, I decided on 30%. If I lost 20%, 25%, I didn't consider those black swans. Once I hit 30, 35 definitely, 40 for sure. So I said that brought me to 30. A minus 30% loss in any one year gave me a black swan, a bad black swan. Impossible to predict, rare to happen, but made a big impact. A 30% is a big impact. And then for my positive black swans, same, it's a plus 30% and higher. So that's how I did my black swans, and that's what shows up here. So you can see here, during the Great Depression, into World War, a lot of black swans. Now, it looks like there's just as many blues as there are red. Blues are a good black swan, 38, 37%, 41%. Reds are the bad black swans, negative percent, big losses. Down here, as we got into the 1945 down to the 1950s, we had 3 good black swans, right? Then, not until the 70s, we had another black swan, 1973, 1974, 2 years in a row, negatives. Now, even though the first year was minus 17, didn't really qualify, it was 2 years in a row, minus 47% for the 2 years. So that's what I call a 2-year black swan. In the Great Depression, we had a 4-year black swan. We had a 3-year black swan. Now, here's a 2-year black swan, okay? Then we had a good black swan, a plus 31 in 75. Then we didn't have any more. Here's some good black swans here, 34, 31. A 3-year black swan was 2000 to 2002, where 3 years in a row we dropped the market, a total of 47%. So even though the first 2 years, 10 and 13, but if you add the 10 and 13, you had 23, and then the other one 47. So I call that a 3-year black swan. Okay, and then we got 2008, minus 38. That was definitely a black swan. That's a 1-year black swan. And then we had 2 almost blue black swans here in 2019 and 2013. 29.6, almost 30. 28.8, almost 30. Up to you if you want to call those black swans or not. But when I set my rules, I have to stick by them. And so those aren't black swans. So that's all the black swans if you look at annual returns in the S&P 500. Again, I put in what I want as my retirement for it to spend now, because we can do it either way. This lets you do saving money, spending money, all the different combinations. Right now, we're seeing how much our 401ks will last. So if we had a $1.5 million 401k and we're pulling out $60,000 a year, which is what we've shown in history in San Jose, that most of the couples come in and say they want $5,000 a month or about $60,000 a year. So that's why I plugged it in here. $60,000 a year, $1.5 million. There's a 4% COLA in here. So we have our profits and losses here in the S&P 500, and we have our withdrawals that we're going to make here for what we're taking out to live off of our 401k withdrawals. You can see if we take out the 60s, these end up ending. So we have from, if you started in 1928, it ended, your money ran out in 1942. In 1929, you started, ended in 1940. And in 1930, if you started with 1.5 million, it ran out in 1942. So you can see they run out here. So, but if I don't have any withdrawals, it keeps running because you're not withdrawing. So it's just going to keep growing, right? So go back to withdrawals. Now what we're going to do is how this works. We're going to take this money out. So at the back of this software, it makes this spreadsheet makes this chart, and the chart shows 1.5 million, and it shows every year starting from 1928 down to 2022, right? And it shows how much money's still in the account if you start drawing it based on the years on the left going up and down. Now this also had the 4% COLA in it. 4% withdrawal, 60,000 a year. So you can see here for your 10-year lines right down here at the bottom. These are all of the experiences we were having during these years. So we had the Great Depression, World War II. We had the baby boom. We had the largest economic bubble with a big crash in 2008. We had the Ethernet and Palo Alto and Xerox. We had the 1970s. We had internet investing. Okay. Stock options and 401k started in the 1980s. 1992, we started having online trading, right? 1960s was the mainframe computer. So these big historical areas are also here to mark what was happening at these times. It just makes things easier to kind of compare them to where you're at. Now, 1.5 million, 10 year, 20 year, 30 years. Did it last? Yes. This is all the money keeps going because people die at 100. So people aren't living this long. So they're dying here at 10, 20, and 30 years into retirement. This is where they're dying. So above that is really nonsensical money. It's not realistic. So we're going to cut those off. But in this case here, it shows at the 10 years, 100%, 1.5 million drawn out 60,000 a year with a 4% inflation. 100% made it 10 years. 88% made it to 20 years, and 83% made it to 30 years. So these are where they're making it. Now we need to cut it off. So if we cut it off at, let's say, year 30 at age 100, and I cut it off at 30 here for this example, then I want to look at how much money is left. Are there any millionaires? And in this case, 53 made it to $1 million. So at the end of 30 years, spending 60,000 a year, starting with 1.5 million, 53% still had $1 million in their account. 23% still had $5 million in their account. And 4.2% still had $10 million in their account at the 30-year mark. Okay, so there are millionaires in the S&P 500. Just the majority of people are not. Okay, cut off at 30 years. Cut off right here at this 30-year line here. All right. So now I have my numbers. I can see how many billionaires we had, and here it sees all the way up to 25 million. I can see how many people at the cutoff time of 30 years still had $1 million or more. So I can see how many people had money, how their money lasted 10, 20, and 30 years, and I can see how many still had $1 million or more in their account to pass on to their beneficiaries. So now we hit a black swan, 38% black swan. So you had 7.3 million to 1.3 million with no black swan. We have a 38% black swan, same $1 million, same withdrawals. Now you have 0.8, so 81,000 to 4.5 million with the black swan of 38%. So you can see how it affected this money dropping down. Then if you go to 47%, your 4 went down to 3.8, your 8 went down to 6. 3.8 maximum. Your 30 years at 70%. Your 10 years at 97%. So 97, 85. These all stayed the same as far as the money lasting. It's just how much money you had in your account is what the impact of the black swan had. So the black swans are very devastating. They're unpredictable. So technically, my opinion, if it's money you're using to live off of, you shouldn't be in the market. Black swans are too deadly, and you never know when they're going to hit you. Not to mention that spending the money down. Okay. Now, how long will your money last? You got to understand rules change. When you're saving your money, all right, you may have market losses if you have it in the market, Of course, you won't have those if you don't have it in the market. You don't have any withdrawals. You're not drawing any out. You're not doing any damage. See, you are your worst enemy when it comes to spending your money. All right? Because everything else is already working against you. Now you start working against you because you have to spend it. All right? And you can have taxes and inflation, which is eating away at you. So you have market losses if you're in the market, withdrawals because you're your own worst monster, taxes because taxes are always there, and inflation because inflation is always there. All right. So that's when you're saving. Now, when you retire, all the rules change. It gets crazy. Okay, saving versus spending, and I can't emphasize this enough. All the rules change. It's not what you're used to when you're trying to save your money and you were younger and you had time to recover and you weren't your own big worst monster. All right? You are now spending. You became your worst monster. You are spending your money. Okay? If you're in the market, you have market losses. You also have your withdrawal losses. So, in the market losses, withdrawal losses, taxes, and inflation. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a knockout. Everything's going against you soon as you start spending your money. Okay? Please let that sink in. Earning money is different. Spending money, everything that was against you when you're earning it is still against you, and now you're your worst monster. If you're out of the market, you still have withdrawal losses, right? And you still have taxes, inflation. So you still got a 1, 2, 3 punch, right? If you are spending your money and you have a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, some kind of a tax-free strategy like life insurance or something, then of course you don't have taxes as your issue. But you still have your withdrawals because you're spending your money and you still have inflation. Okay? So that's still a 1-2 punch. Got me? Now, if you have what's called, because like I say, once you start spending the money that you have to live off of should not be in the markets. Just my opinion. Go against it if you will at your own peril. You should not be in the market the money you need to live on while you're retired. And you should get yourself, I move my clients to what I call safe money. Guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit. It has many different names, many different sets of initiatives, but basically you move your money from the market because now you're going to start spending it and you have a guaranteed income. Okay? So you have cash value losses. Your cash value is what you're spending. Okay? And if your money's still in the market, you still have market losses. However, you have a lifetime income. And if you have a tax-free strategy, you eliminate your tax issues. Okay? So you need to be in something like this. This is what I refer to as the Plan B. Now, let's look at accumulation. Before you retire, you're in accumulation. And in accumulation, life is a lot simpler for you because there's this thing called commutative principle of multiplication. Okay? And it states that when you're multiplying numbers, in this case, your minus and your pluses and minuses in the S&P 500, right? You lose 10% or you gain 10%, right? That's your pluses and minuses, multiplying those losses against your balance. You can put these numbers in any order. It doesn't matter. When you calculate the return, it'll come out the same. That's what makes life easier and more predictable, even though it may not be predictable at all, when you're saving. Okay? It's drastically more different than when you start spending it. Okay? So, for example, if I had a $500,000 in a 401k that I'm growing, and I had a 28% return on it, it jumps up to $640,000. Now, if I had the next year a 10% loss, it drops to $576. And then if I have a 15% gain, 662, and so on. Minus 12, minus 38 down here. So I started at 500,000, went through these ups and downs, have 631,205. Let's say in that 10 years I turned 70. So my 500,000 became 631,000 for my retirement. This is when I need to move it. Okay, put it in Plan B, safe money account. Or you can go with fee-based guys and you can do the song and dance with them, stay on the roller coaster. That's at your own peril, okay? So, The principle of commutative principle of multiplying states that you can run these in any order. So if I take the 38, put it at the top, take the 28, put it at the bottom. In other words, just reverse these, right? And still multiply them out, starting with 500,000, I end up with 631,000. It's different here in returns. This is 640, this is 310, because this is a 28% gain, this is a 38% loss. And this also points out that when you go into retirement, to have a big loss, like that's a black swan, as soon as you retire and lose 38%, it's devastating. It's devastating. Okay? So it matters when you're on the other side here and you're spending money. When you're not spending the money, you got time to recover. All right? So it's completely different. And like it says, no matter how you dress this, it all comes out the same. Until you move over on this side where you're going to start withdrawing money. Now, I'm going to take the 28% to 38. That's here, 28 to 38, to save $500,000. But now I'm going to withdraw 7%, $35,000 a year. I'm going to increase it every year by 3% for a 3% COLA. So now I've got, this could be COLA, could be inflation and taxes. It could be taxes only, taxes, inflation. But there's a percentage of money you're losing, either taxes or inflation. So that's in there, right? Because that's what you're going to have realistically, unless you have a tax-free strategy. And your withdrawal that you said I got to live off of, which is my $35,000, right? Which means you got to take out more and more as taxes go up. You got to take out more and more if inflation goes up. So that's what this represents. So you start with your $500,000, you put it over here, okay? Now you have a 28% gain, a 35% reduction goes to $605. A 10% reduction with a $36,000 reduction goes to $508. Follow me? At the end here, we're not at 613, we're at 313 because we're taking all of this out, right? Plus we still have our market losses. So now we're at 313. But this no longer applies. Why? We're making a big impact here on what's happening. And it makes a difference if you get a big black flip swan in the difference. Because like here it made a big difference, but you had time to recover because you weren't taking this out. Now we're taking this out. So let's see what happens. We take the 38%, switch it around just like we did over here. Now we have a big loss or a black swan up at the beginning of our retirement. And we taken out the money that we're taking out. So now we end up with $15,000 loss. Follow me on that? It's not the same. All the rules are different, okay? So you should not be in the market. Your money you're living off of, my opinion, my advice, should not be in the market. It should not be at risk. Do what you will. It's your money. There's all sorts of fee-based guys out there, and people that are projecting and predicting, they'll take your money, and maybe they'll do better for you. I won't be involved in it. So, remember the black swans. They still have black swans as well, okay? They can't predict them no matter what they tell you, and it could be either very good or very bad. But me, I don't deal with black swans, okay? So, the two biggest enemies, especially when you're spending your money down, they're on both sides of the fence, though, is taxes and inflation. Those are your two worst enemies, no matter which side you're on, either spending or not spending. They're your biggest things. So you need to try and control those as best you can. Inflation, you ain't got a whole lot of set controlling that except your votes, I guess. Taxes and inflation equals higher withdrawals. Why? As your taxes go up, it takes more money. But you need 60,000, and now you're losing more to taxes. You need more than 60,000 to get the same 60,000. Same thing with inflation. You know, inflation's going up. Things cost more. The $60,000 isn't buying as much. You need to take more money out. So taxes and inflation create bigger withdrawals. That's why it's so devastating. Now, when you become an adult, when you're in your growing phase, when you're growing up, you're maturing, right? That's basic from the time you're born to the age 40. Hopefully the age 30. But at least by the age 40, you need to get out of this growing phase, which is when you're learning everything. You're probably getting your kids, starting your family, getting your first homes, got your first jobs, starting your career, maybe going on some vacations. But you're normally not thinking about retirement yet. You got all this other stuff happening. The closer to 30 you think about it, the better it is for you, okay? Now, you get into the savings phase. You got to get into the savings phase at least by age 40, because between the age of 40 and 70 is only 30 years. Okay? Now, 30 to 70 is 40 years, but you're already spending the first 40 years becoming you. Okay? But by age 40, at the latest, you need to change your mindset. You're going to be in the accumulation phase where you got to start saving money. Okay? You got to start putting money aside for your future, your retirement. Okay? So you're retiring nowadays around 70. So from 70 to 100 is another 30 years. Okay? 40 years growing up, 30 years preparing for the 30 years you're dying. That's another way of looking at it. Retirement, you've started your decline, right? So, retire. Once you go into retirement at age 70, 10 years in, you're already age 80. Most people are dead by age 80, okay? 10 years into your retirement, the odds are you're going to be dead. 20 years into retirement, age 90, practically everybody's dead. Almost nobody makes it past 90. Odds are way against you. And if you go 30 years into retirement, you're at age 100. How many centennials are you aware of? How many people make it to 100? So think about this. 40 years, find out who you are. Set your career, figure out if you're going to have family or not, housing, living, what you're going to do, what your lifestyle is. Save 30 years, the next 30 years, and try to save for your retirement, your college, whatever else you're planning, building your business. That's the next 30 years. Because by the time you're 70, you got to retire, game over. Next 10, 20, or 30 years, you're going to be passing away unless you're lucky enough to make a centennial. Okay? Now, how long will your money last, right? How much did you save? The biggest question is not how long will my money last? The biggest question is how much did you save? How much did you keep, right? How much did you not spend or lose, right? Well, if you look at Vanguard, right, the third largest 401k provider in the world, at age 65 plus, the average account, 44.7 million accounts, the average account's $255,000. The median account, which is where most of the people have it, is only $82,000. How many people do you know can retire on $255,000, much less $82,000? Okay? That's why you've seen my chart here before. 96% of retiring people, right, have less than $500,000 for their retirement. 83 have less than 100,000. 45% have nothing. They just gave up. So that's only 40,000 out of 1 million people have 500 plus. 3.9% have 500 plus. Okay, this is a big problem. We got to get the word out. Fidelity Securities is the largest 401k provider. Only 1.6% have about $1 million. That's 441,000 accounts out of 27.2 million accounts. 1.6% have $1 million. That's Fidelity Guaranty, the largest provider. So please help me get the word out. This is important to everybody you know, all right? So $255,000 is what people are retiring with. So now let's look at some rules of thumbs here about spending, because in the retirement, we're going to be spending our money. So we have what's called the 3%, it used to be the 4% rule, right? At 3%, okay, at a 3% withdrawal, whatever it is, if it's a 3% from $1, it's going to take 33 years to spend it if you just take 3% of what's left every year, because you're getting less and less and less and less and less until you got nothing, okay? If you have your money in a tin can, hidden under your pillow, maybe under your mattress, and it's got no loss, no growth, no rats or bugs eating it, it'll last 33 years, taking out 3% of whatever's left every year. Okay? 3%, then it's gone. Now, at 4%, that's 25 years in a tin can under your pillow. Right? That's what we call the rule of thumb. 3 to 4% withdrawal of whatever your balance is. 3% withdrawal get you 33 years. 4% withdrawal get you 25 years, unless it's in the market and you have ups and downs, because then all bets are off. It depends on what your losses are against what your gains are. Under a pillow, in a can, in your mattress, and the rats and the fire and the bugs and everything doesn't get it. Taking out 4% a year will last 25 years. Okay? It's the rule of thumb of spending money in retirement. So now we're going to cover, starting with the 255, that unfortunately the majority of people, 96%, will have. which is sad. We're pulling out the $60,000 that the average person here in San Jose says they need per year to retire. $60,000 a year. Most of them are going to have $255,000 or less. But we're going to look at $255,000, start with there, and go up to $2 million. Okay? $60,000 withdrawal from $250,000 is a 23% withdrawal. Okay? That's only 3.4 years that will last in a can under your pillow. Just to give you perspective, okay? A 3% withdrawal, 33 years. It's $60,000, 3% withdrawal from $2 million. So you need $2 million to get that $60,000 at 3%. Follow me? Okay? So you either have to lower your income or you have to increase your asset to make your retirement last longer or be more secure. That's it. That's your two choices. And remember, you're playing around for 40 years of your life. Don't play around that second group of 30 years. All right? Because you need it for the next 30 years. We're looking at my chart here, and we're going to go in, and we're doing $255,000. That's a 23% withdrawal. $60,000 withdrawal a year. That's 4.3 years it should last if you're not taking any taxes out and you're not paying for any inflation. Okay? Now, how many people make it 10 years? Nobody. Here's the 10-year line right here. 10-year line. Nobody makes it to 10 years if you're pulling out 23% in the S&P 500, and you're in the market. You're taking all the market losses, taking all the market gains. All right, this is in the market. Nobody's going to make it. So why are you in the market? You know, money you have that you have to live off of should not be in the market. And even if it was in the market, you got the full power of the market behind you. In that 94-year cycle, nobody made it to 10 years. How many millionaires are there? Yeah, even at a 20-year cutoff, age 90. Nobody makes $1 million because they don't even make it to 10 years. We go to $500,000, $500,000. Now, $60,000 a year, we're still using the $60,000 a year. That's a 12% withdrawal, not as bad as the 23% withdrawal from $500,000. Again, we're not taking out any taxes and doing any inflation. So at $500,000, taking out 12% to $60,000 a year in a tin can will last 8.3 years. 66% make it 10 years though. 57 out of 86 investors, right? 3% made it to 30 years. Now, so 0 made it to $1 million, 0 made it to 5. So nobody even made it to $1 million. The highest was 712,000. That's over here somewhere. Okay. Otherwise, you don't have any money. So you're in the market, S&P 500, taking all the risk, taking all the profits, taking out 12% a year. 66% of the time you're going to make it if you have $500,000, taking out $60,000. So you have a 66% chance. So now let's look at $1 million. $1 million, 97% make it 10 years, 85% make it 20 years, 77% make it 30 years. And we have an average of $1.3 million left at 20 years. So at age 90, if you're in the markets, S&P odds, with all the regular black swans that were there, 1.3 million is the average. 7 million, somebody made it up to 7 million, okay? Nobody made it to 10 million. 3% made it to 5 million. 40% made it to 1 million, okay? So here they are. If you're in the markets with $1 million, you're taking out 60,000, you have a 85% chance of making it to 20 years. And you have a 40% chance of having $1 million in your account to pass on. That's the S&P. That's the reality, okay? And we're not talking about having a black swan here at your last year or as soon as you got in, or at year 20 having a black swan yet, okay? At 1.5 million, you're at a 4% withdrawal. So still within the rule of thumb, 3 to 4%. Should last 25 years. 1.5 million, cut off still 20 years. 100% chance of making it 10 years. 94% chance of making it 20 years. And 93% chance of making it 30 years. Wow, things are looking pretty good at 1.5 million if you're drawing out $60,000 a year and you're staying in the S&P 500 with all those gains and all those losses, okay? How many millionaires? 2.9 average millionaire, 14 maximum millionaire. Let's see here. 67% made it to $1 million, 23% made it to $5 million, 4% made it to 10 million. Nobody made it to 15. So that's a 20-year cutoff. So age 90. Okay, so there's some millionaires here, but you need to get to 1.5 million, not 255,000. 1.5 million, the odds are looking a lot better. Okay, $2 million, 20-year cutoff, 60,000 a year. You're only drawing out 3% of the 1% rule. Now you have 95% chance of making it to the 30 years. So if you got to $2 million and you stayed in the markets, you have a 95% chance of making it 30 years and not running out of money for 30 years. 97% chance of making it 20 years. 100% chance of making it 10 years. Forget it. You're going to make it. That's age 90, right? So things are looking pretty good for you at $2 million to start with, okay? How many millionaires? Oh, look at that, $20 million. Somebody actually made it 20 million, 20-year cutoff. Somebody made it to $20 million. 71% made it to $1 million, 35% made it to $5 million, 10% made it to $10 million, and 3% made it to $15 million, and only 1%, so one out of however many, made it to $20 million. Okay? So 1.5 to $2 million is what you need as a minimum to make it to 20 to 30 years and stay in the S&P 500, provided you don't have a huge black swan near the end there. Okay, you had some during there, but hopefully you don't have it near the end there. Okay, so that's the reality of S&P 500. So we went from 500,000, 255,000 to 2 million. The sweet spots is 1.5 to $2 million if you're going to stay in the market and you're only going to take out $60,000. That's where we're at. Argue with it if you want. The data's the data. Go to a fee-based guy if you want. I don't go there. My clients go to Safe Money at this time, okay? So if you get to your 1.5 or your $2 million and now you're 70 years old, you're going to retire, move it to Safe Money. My clients, if they listen to me, my clients go to Safe Money. I can't make everybody go. I don't control them, okay? So now let's look at COLA. You have $1 million, right? You only made it to $1 million, drawing out $60,000, okay? 6% withdrawal. Cutoff is 20 years. It looks like 1.3 is the average, still in your account at 20 years, and somebody actually had 7. So 40% had $1 million, 3% had $5 million, nobody had $10 million. So the highest was $7 million, average was $1.3 million. That's with no taxes, no inflation. You start with $1 million. You're in the S&P 500, and you're drawing out $60,000 a year. Those are your odds of making it. Okay, 77 you make it 30 years. 85 makes it 85 years. So now let's put some COLA in here, 4%. So whether it's 4% in taxes, 4% in inflation, either way you're ending up 4% of your money. It could be a combination of taxes and inflation. But let's just say it, a measly old 4%. Okay, 4%. 90% make it to 10 years. 60% make it to 20 years. 50% make it to 30 years. So only half make it. Just with that 4%, you go from 77% to 50% making it to the 30 years. Any millionaires? There's a 4 million right there. Let's see. 27% had $1 million at a 20-year cutoff. Nobody had a 5 million. So the highest was a 4.4 million. He's somewhere over here. So average $700,000. With a 4% inflation or a 4% tax, with $1 million, 6% withdrawal, $60,000 a year, making it to age 90 is only 50%. 50%. That's not good odds. Just with a 4% tax or 4% inflation. That's not good odds. Now, 8% inflation. Boy, 68% make it 10 years. Only 27% make it 20 years, and only 18% make it 10. There's a 3.2 millionaire there, though. Let's see. 12% made $1 million. Nobody made $5 million. So here's your money right here. 1.2 million, 2.6. So here's the few millionaires you had. Everybody else here, he didn't make it. Those are your odds, man. Those are your odds. 68% of you will make it to 10 years. That's your odds, 10 years. Only 27% to 20 years. Okay, not very good. You should not be in the market. If this is the money you need and you only had $1 million, you should not be in the market when you retire. 10% loss, it just gets worse. 2.9 millionaire, So nobody made it to 5 million. Only 9% made it to the million. There's not very many people there. Only half made it to the 10 years. This is not where you want to be. You do not want to be in the market when you need that money and you only have $1 million and you're retiring at age 70. That's not where you want to be. So your two biggest enemies, right? Your two biggest enemies, taxes and inflation, okay? They're always going to be there. Taxes and inflation equals higher withdrawals, right? The more taxes you pay, the more inflation you have to pay, the less money you have, the more money you have to take out to get to the same product you were buying with that same money. So taxes and inflation equals more spending. It's just, that's the way it is. So remember, when you're growing age 0 to 40, that's the only time you got to play around. Really, to age 30. By age 30, you better be mature enough. You better stop playing around. Now, if you got lots and lots of money, play all you want. 96% of us aren't there. 96% of us are not there. So grow up fast, all right? 40 to 70 is only 30 years to build your $1.5 to $2 million. $1.5 to $2 million if you're going to stay in the market and go with fee base, and you're trying to get some of those $1 million beneficiaries there that you can give away. Otherwise, you're not going to be there. 10 years into retirement, retiring at age 70, you're 80 years old. Most people are passed away. 20 years into retirement from age 70, you're age 90. Pretty much everybody's passed away. And 30 years in, you're age 100, and we all know there's not that many centennials. So lifespan, let's call it 100 years, 90 years, 100 years. You only get 30 years, maybe 40 years of playtime. The rest, you got to get serious, unless you're already rich and you're one of the very few 1.6% people, right? It's a tax time bomb. It just is. It's a tax time bomb. Unless it's a Roth, then it's not. At least you get rid of your taxes, but you still have inflation, okay? And what does that do to you? You know exactly what it does to you. It blows up. So stop the madness. Think tax-free income. When you retire, 96% of us have to move to safe money. You have to do it, okay? Don't gamble against that, all right? Let's look at inflation. This has cost of living, it has Social Security benefit increases, and it has SSI, or what you call supplemental, if you're injured or special needs or something. In the 1970s, we're at about an average of 7.2. You can see 6 and 5s down here for the most part, but the 10s and the 9s here help bring that up to 7. 1997 to 1981, we're at 11 to 14% inflation. What was good about that one is, let's see, CPI, Social Security benefit. Social Security benefit was 14% increase that year. If you're on Social Security. 1980s was about average of 5. This 14s pulled that up because it was really way down here at 1.5 and 3s. You see a lot of 1.5 and 3s. Then you get the 1990s to the 210s. It's like 3, 2.6, and 2.4. It's been, for 3 decades, has been in the dirt, so to speak. And just recently now, it's skyrocketing. I mean, as of July 10th, we're at 8.3%. And in 2022, we're already going 7 and breaking 9% inflation. It's coming. It's headed back here. Get prepared for it. Be prepared for it. If you're the 96% of us, get the hell out of the market when you retire. At least the money you need to live on when you go into retirement. If it's money you don't need to live on, you set aside for something else. That doesn't need to be out of the market. But you see what the market's doing. You see what the 401ks are doing. Now, those of you that don't think you're going to make it to 100, 1980, United States, we had 32,000 people in the United States. I should have put the population here, but I forgot to do that. 32,000 out of whatever the population was. We're 100. 37%, 37,000, 50,000, 53,000, 90,000. Remember, the population's also growing here. But 90,000 in 2020 made it to 100 years. It's just in the United States. Okay, so you are living longer. Okay. So now, like I said, plan B. 96% of you need a plan B. You need a plan B especially when you retire. If you didn't do it before you retired, you need to do it when you're retired. You need to get out of the market. I'm just telling you, you need to get out of the market. Okay. With a zero floor, you have these returns. Now, again, this is just starting in 1928. This Great Depression is the World War II. These negative numbers and plus numbers, that's what you're going to be living through. That's what everybody's living through, okay? Plan B is out of the market. The first thing you want to get rid of is all these negatives. You want to keep these pluses, but nobody's going to let you do that when they absorb all these negatives, okay? So you wipe out all the negatives, you're going to lose some of your pluses. But you got to get out of the market. The money you need to live on can't have negative returns. It just can't. It just can't. So we go to what's called a zero floor. All right. This is what I call safe money. This is my specialty. It's been my specialty since I got into business, 20 years ago, whatever it is, 2002, whatever that was. A zero floor, no losses. You can't take losses. You just can't take losses. Okay. So all these negatives go to zero. Okay. Then because you're going to zero floor, somebody has to absorb all that risk, right? And they're not going to let you have 41% gains, 44% gains, and they're going to absorb 28% and 47% losses. It's not going to happen. So you have to have some kind of cap. So if you take out all your losses away, you have nothing but zeros here as the minimum, and you put a 4% cap, you're probably going to have a 4% return almost every one of these years because most of your returns in the S&P 500 are over 4%. So you notice here you have a lot of zeros. So a lot of 0 years, okay? 0 years, okay? And the best being 4%, okay? This is how zero floor and caps work. And this is how safe money works, okay? So now let's look at some cap rates. So this is showing a 4% cap rate. You'll see that the highest number here is 4. You see one here is 2.6. That's because that particular year, 1956, it only made 2.6%. This one here was a minus or something, so it's a 0. So everything else here in the beginning here, you can see it's 4%. So with a 4% cap, that's the most you're going to get. And most of the years, or about half the years, it looks like a lot of the years you're not going to get anything. It's going to be 0 because it was a negative year. At a 6% cap rate, you can see a lot of 6s again. You see the same 2.6 down here. So that means all these were above 6% returns. So you're capped at 6. Your top here is going to be 6%. So you're going to have a lot of zeros and a lot of 6s. Follow me? This is how safe money works. 8% cap. Look at these. They're all 8% here again, except that 2. And I can't see below that, but at least to the 1960s, you're going to either have 8% or 0%. And there's a lot of years with 0%, right? That's how it works. Okay. So take $1 million now. Remember, $1 million, if you stayed in the markets, it wasn't cutting it. It's not cutting it. $1 million is not cutting it. You need 1.5 to 2. Well, if you didn't get to 1.5 or 2, or even if you did, take that money out, put it into safe money. So let's look at this. We have a 0 floor. We have a 4% cap, no inflation, so no taxes either. 6% withdrawal, $1 million, $60,000 a year. Okay, 100% of the time, because you're out of the market and you're either making zeros or 6s. 100% of the time you made to 10 years. Okay, here's your 10-year line. Here's your 20-year line. 94% of the time you made your 20-year line. 0% made 30 years. So for $1 million, where you can't make it in the market, you can make it to 20 years with a $60,000 return without the market with a safe money account. As long as you had at least a 4% cap, just a measly old 4% cap, you're going to make it 20 years, 94%. No millionaires, 86,000 to 222,000. So you're not going to leave much. You're going to spend all the money. You're not going to have much of an inheritance to leave, but you're going to make it 20 years. So 94%. So that's practically almost everybody who lives, except the centennials. You're going to make it for $1 million. That's the power of getting out of the market. And that's the power of having safe money strategies, okay? Now we go to a 6% cap. You had 100% making it 10 years, 100% making it 20 years, and 4.5% making it 30. Don't have any millionaires. The highest one is $500,000. So that's a 20-year cutoff. So you have some money to get you're passing on. Average about $200,000 when you pass away. If you pass away at age 90, you're 20, 20 years in. So let's see what happens again. And no black swans. They're gone. As soon as you're out of the market, no black swans. 8% cap. Now you're at 84% making it 30 years. So with an 8% cap, a lot of 0 years, you're still going to have about 84% will make it, 100% for 10 and 20 years. So being that most people don't make it past the 20 years, $1 million with a 6%, 8% cap and no negative returns makes it. And almost $1 million on somebody there, 947,000, but no millionaires. But $400,000 to $900,000 left when you passed away, if you passed in the 20 years or at age 90. Not bad. That makes a big difference for $1 million. Now, you have a lot better chance of getting to $1 million than you do $2 million or $1.5 million. 96% aren't even getting to $500,000, much less $1 million. So at least set your goal to $1 million and get the hell out of the markets, okay, with your retirement money, okay? The other thing when you go into safe money, and this is the most powerful thing in safe money, all right? The most powerful thing is something called a GMWB. Then they have many names, many initials for it. Guaranteed income benefit, lifetime income living benefit. And they call it all kinds of stuff, but guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit. Guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit to get a lifetime guarantee. So whatever that minimum withdrawal is, you'll always have that for the rest of your life when your money runs out. That's what that's for. So let's look at that. So you have a zero floor automatically because you went to safe money. You have some kind of a cap or restriction on your gains. You have that because you went to safe money, got rid of all your losses. You're out of the market and have no black swans. Okay, no black swans. And now you have a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. So how I demonstrate this here is this will show you at the cutoff year of 20 is how much money you had in there. How much money you had in there. So with an 8% cap, you're drawing out $60,000 a year. So your money's going to run out. And you can see here when it runs out. Let's see, 100% make it 10 years. 100% make it 20 years. 84% make it 30 years. So your money is going to run out if you're drawing out $60,000. It's going to run out, some of you in 30 years. And you're going to have some to give away. But if you live past 30 years, if you become a centennial, you're still going to get paid. So this is your cash being cut off at 20 years right here. This is your cash just growing up until this is what's left in your account. So you have $1 million now. You have a really good chance of being able to at least retire respectfully without having to worry about it. No black swans, none of that stuff. Still got to worry about taxes and inflation. You still have to have some tax strategies, and you still have to deal with inflation, okay? But your money will never run out. So let's say you're getting $60,000 a year, and you live to age 100. That's 30 years. And in that 30 years, that $60,000 was not enough. There's a point in time when you're probably going to have to cut back, and you may be cutting back already. You may be losing a lot of stuff you're not spending already. And so hopefully those cutbacks are enough that you can still live off of what's left of that $60,000 because it'll never be greater than the $60,000 in almost all scenarios. Some have inflation, but you start out lower and they give you some inflation boost. But you're guaranteed not to run out of money. You're not guaranteed to have cash when you die. Follow me? That's a huge thing for 96% of the people that won't even have $500,000 to start with. Follow me? So now the other thing is, now we go to let's say you made it to $1.5 million. you're pulling out the $60,000. You already know that you're going to have some cash to give back to your beneficiaries, and you also know that you have a $60,000 guarantee for life. So if you're one of these few that didn't make it, some of them didn't make it. If you're some of the few that didn't make it, you still have the $60,000. Now, if you had 1.5 million, you probably want to take out a little bit more, and if you don't have to worry about having money left over, right? If that's not your concern, but living a little bit better, you can have almost a $90,000 guarantee at $1.5 million for the rest of your life. Now, if you're taking out $90,000 versus $60,000, the money's going to run out faster. Sure it is. But if you live to be a centennial or break the centennial record, you're still going to have that $90,000. That's the power of safe money. That's the power of no floor and having restricted income. Returns, that's your trade-off. But you have a more secure and a safer retirement, if not a completely safe retirement. That's the power of safe money. That's what I push with all my clients. Not that they all do it, but I don't control their money, but lifetime income benefit, you got to think about it. Safe money, lifetime income. Roth IRA, no taxes, get rid of that tax bomb. If this is all tax-free money, it won't affect your Social Security benefit. If it's taxable income, it's going to affect your Social Security benefit, or may affect your Social Security benefit. And even with just a 4 or 6% lifetime income, it can change your life. So the tax bomb, the black swans and everything, well, with the guaranteed income, those are gone. They're just gone. No more worries. Okay, so this is what the S&P looks like over 94 years. You have 44% returns, 10% returns, all these big returns here, and you got all these losses. This is what it looks like. When you go to safe money, you come out of the market, get out of the S&P, get out of the black swans, right? The first thing happens is you go to a zero floor. So the S&P now looks like this. You see all the pluses are there, but they took away all these red losses. Well, they're not going to take all the red losses and let you keep all these big pluses. That's impossible. It's not going to happen, all right? So accept the fact that if you have a 20% cap, and you're not going to get that, not in this day and age. Maybe in the past you might have, and maybe in the front you might have, but 20%, you're not going to get a 20% cap. It's not realistic. But this is what the S&P looks like with a zero floor, and you see there's a lot of 0 years here, and then a lot of 20% years here. That means that all those years that have showed 20%, the S&P did better than 20%. Okay. Now it's 14% cap. See all the 14 years, they did better than that. All the ones below that, that's what they did, but no zeros. 8% cap, this is kind of what it looks like. You see all the 8% there? That means the S&P did better than 8%. And all the ones below 8%, that's what the markets did. That's what you got. Got up to 8%. No floor, no negatives. 6% cap. Almost everything's 6% now. See that? Not very many are below that. So there's a few, but then there's a lot of zeros. So a lot of zeros and a lot of sixes, what you got. 4% cap, you can see almost everything's 4% cap. There's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only see 5 that are under 4%. So you're basically getting 4% for all the good years and 0 for all the bad years. And that's how safe money works. All right? So that's your plan B. It has to be out of the market. It has to be safe. Now, what are they? Fixed index annuities, right? Making 4 to 8% or whatever it is. Lifetime income benefit. You got to get the lifetime income benefit, right? Now, if they're Roth strategies, they're tax-free. Won't affect your Social Security benefit. Won't have to worry about taxes. Just have to worry about inflation. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is gone, right? It could be a tax ratio. In other words, you move your money into there. Some of it is premium of it. Some of it is gain. You lifetime benefit it because you didn't have an income guarantee, but you can, any fixed annuity, you can turn it into lifetime income. Then it'll be an income tax ratio based on how much is premium, how much is taxable. Or if it's a Roth or a tax-free strategy, it's tax-free. That's the best place to be, right? The other strategy that does this is Index Universal Life, all right? Or Universal Life, but Index Universal Life. You can have tax-free income because you're spending the death benefit. You're taking loans out. So you're basically spending death benefit. But with a life insurance product, you have a death benefit, you have cash value, and you have your income, whatever that's guaranteed to be, right? And well, your income is not guaranteed. It'd be guaranteed to be tax-free until you take the loans out, but it's not going to be a lifetime guarantee or anything. Unless you turn your life insurance product to a lifetime income. It could be taxed. It could be a MEC, which means it's taxable. It works like an annuity that's taxable. And you have its cash value in there. You either spend your cash value or you spend down your death benefit. There's different ways you can do it. But these are your plan B. Okay. Both are out of the market. They have no black swans and no market risk. It doesn't mean they don't have fees. If you have a living benefit, you probably have a B on a fixed index annuity, or you have a fixed index annuity with no fees, and you have just the floors and the caps, all right? Until you start to draw money, then go ahead and just annuitize the darn thing. And then you'll have a ratio, okay? Any of the fees come out of the cash value on both of these. Fees do not come out of your living benefits. Your living benefits are your living benefits. The fees don't come out of there, okay? So, don't forget, subscribe, like, share, ring that bell notification. It's free. It costs you nothing. It helps get the word out. How many people would you like or think should know what I just showed you? How many people have ever talked to you about this stuff? Nobody's doing this. 96% of the people don't even have $255,000. You need to know my odds of the S&P 500 so you know how much money to fund your 401k. So when you're in your 30s and 20s and 40s, you can get to that 1.2, 1.5, or $2 million because you know how much to fund it. You're not funding it. And then on top of that, you fund it, you get you to about 50% or whatever it is. Then you do your plan B with the rest of that money. You don't put your full 10% in there. You're going to put something less than 10%. The other percentage you put in your fixed index annuity, your life insurance, index universal life. That's your plan B. So now you'll have whatever your million plus is in your 401k. You know, get your odds up there so you have a good chance of hitting at least the million. And then the rest of it, $500,000 or whatever, comes from your plan B. And then when you retire, you pull everything out of the market. Okay? Now we've come to an end, or what I call a short break. Just a short little break. I hope you like it. I hope you found value of it. I hope you feel like I just made your whole day, because you've made mine. All right? Take care and be safe. Love you all.